Again, thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Maximizing Retention and Revenue with Every Checkout. I'd like to introduce you to our presenter. Today we have the amazing Lisa Starr. She's a Mindbody certified business consultant and a spa and salon retention expert. Lisa, take it away.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. What a great topic for Monday, right? Something to improve our businesses. So we're here today to talk about maximizing revenue and retention, which is always important, but I'm going to focus on the checkout point in particular for today. Maximizing it and why at checkout, and you'll see why. There are many opportunities for addressing this topic, but checkout is one of the most impactful. Before I start, I just wanted to say that it's a crazy time in any country that you are in any place. I was fortunate enough to travel last week to the Global Wellness Summit in Florida, which is an annual conference for well-being and spa leaders around the world. We usually have about 600 people, and this year we had about 110 brave souls who flew down to Florida, and we received COVID tests and wore bracelets and went through UV sterilization every day when we entered. We were spaced out, we wore masks, we did everything safely, and we had 3 great days of content. It was so great to be in the room with other people from our industry, because we've really missed that, all of us. But at least these webinars give us a chance to connect. One of the highlights of the 3 days at the summit was that Rick Stallmeyer, the founder and former CEO of Mindbody, made an appearance and showed us his new book about building a well-being business with lots of great advice in it. So you might want to pick that up. So again, these are crazy times, and we have to maximize every client that we have in, because due to capacity restrictions or just general fear, we are not seeing as many guests as we've seen in the past. We're going to launch a quick poll that has 2 questions that I'd like you to just take a moment to answer. Whether you are currently tracking your retention, and whether you are tracking it by staff member or just in general to the business. We'd just kind of love to see where you are with that before we keep going. So take a quick second, if you wouldn't mind, and answer those for us. Well, I go on to say that it sounds like most of the people that have joined us have businesses that are open, and hopefully they will stay that way. As we see this second surge, I think some businesses may have to close. I'm hoping not. I know that in New York, gyms were exempted from shutting down, and hopefully that will continue to be the case for fitness and salon and spa as well. So thank you for the poll. So most people, 78% are tracking retention, and about half of you are tracking it by staff members. So great. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, why are we discussing this topic? Why is this of interest? Because no matter what kind of business you're in, or where you are, or how long you've been in business, you don't have an endless supply of clients, right? We only have so many customers that meet our target demographic. And we put a lot of effort into marketing to bring those clients to us so that we meet and connect. But if we don't bring them back, we have to start all over. And that is just the worst, right? You've gotten all this trouble to get them to call and book an appointment or book a class and come in, and then if we don't get them back, it's a long slog upwards. So we see there's nothing but positive results from retaining the guests we have. I've listed 3 here. It lowers your marketing costs, because the busier you get with repeat, the less you have to attract new people. It lowers operating costs, because the people that come regularly, they know how it works in your spa or salon. They don't need to be shown around, so they take less time from customer service. They kind of know the ropes. And lastly, we know that loyal regular clients spend more, both in retail and service, or come more often. So these are all excellent results that we'd want to have for retaining clients. So when your client presents himself at the front desk for checkout, I want you to think about these 3 questions. Are they happy? Would they like some home care products? Of course, retail. And will they reschedule? This is all we have to know at this point. First of all, if they're not happy, we want to address it now. We don't want a client going out into the world who's not happy and posting on Instagram or on Facebook about their experience. We want to nip any issues in the bud right now. Of course, we want to maximize sales with sending them home with some retail, which helps them extend the results of the service, and I'll touch on that again. And mostly, we want them to reschedule to come back. Remember, our job is to maximize those appointment bookings in appointment-based businesses. We need to fill up the book. And if this person standing in front of me books an appointment, and that's one less spot that I have to get from someone else in the future. So rebooking for sure. We know that retention equals success. It's the single biggest indicator of therapist and business success if you will bring people back. When you have a survey and that one question that they'll answer, would you return? Would you recommend our business to a friend? So that positive experience is, I can't emphasize enough how important it is. And if you get them to return, then you have that many more opportunities to sell them products, upsell them on services, connect them into different services with different therapists. But if you don't get them back, as I said earlier, we need to find someone else to fill that hole. And we have to begin that marketing search all over again. And even if they do come back, they won't come back as soon as they would if we ask them to reschedule at the time of checkout. So retention is a multifaceted approach. It's not any one thing. I'm going to cover today some of the different areas and give you some examples, but it's really woven throughout the visit. How we connect with the guests. And this starts at the very beginning, from your website, from the way, if they call, if you answered the phone, how they're greeted, how you connect with that person is a great indicator of how they will feel about your business at the end of the service. The service delivery cycle, which is a complex map that we make of all the inflection points that a client has with our business, and there are many. All along that route, we're focused on pulling them back, building community and loyalty, as I'm sure many of you do. Businesses today are much more aware of their community impact, and they participate in the community in a way that we didn't used to 20 years ago. So that's a really great way to inspire loyalty. Also, retailing. There are many studies, especially on the salon side, that will show that if a guest leaves with retail, they're 2 to 3 times more likely to return just because they bought a product. So if you have no other reason to retail than that one, that makes it worthwhile. And then lastly, and most importantly, asking the guests, would you come back? And I'll give you some examples of how that would work. Now, the point I do want to also make is that the checkout is not a transaction, and we tend to look at it as a transaction. And you'll know what I mean if you think about when you wait in the grocery store line to check out. And the clerks are usually talking about when is their next break, when was their last break, what time they finished for the day. They're not focusing on you, the customer, and that feels very transactional, and that is not what we want in spa and salon environments. We have to create rapport, looking in the eye, friendly, understanding the needs of the guests, impressing them with how smart we are about the services and the results of the services and treatments that we offer, and creating compelling solutions for the needs that they have. The checkout is that last moment that we have with the guests before they depart. So it's our chance to make sure everything went smoothly. We hopefully exceeded their expectations, not just met their expectations. And we make them aware of all the things that we can do. Now, this is a little tip for the front desk folks about client awareness. If you have to ask the name of a guest who's already been in your facility at checkout, you're already losing rapport. I know this is a challenge. People come in with coats and hats and glasses, and they take them off, and we can't tell who they are. But it's really key to try and train your front desk to pay attention. Use little tips and tricks to remember who went where, who was who. So when they come back to the desk, we can say, "Hey, Jane, how was it?" That makes them feel much more welcome. Use any cues you can, like if they walk back up with a provider, quickly you can look in the book and see the name of the person that provider was just with. That gives you another clue. So I think that you need to just be clear with people and make sure that you are connecting in every way possible. Now, here's
Hey,
the big
Lisa,
point. Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. Can you just speak a little bit louder? I think some of our attendees are having trouble hearing you.
I can see if I can turn up my volume. The who, thank you for sharing that. The who of who is connecting with us is everyone, right? It's not just the responsibility of the desk, and it is not just the responsibility of the technical staff. It's everybody's job to make sure that we ask that guest to come back. But it has to be done in concert. So I'm going to give you some examples of how that works. But we sometimes see therapists or stylists think, oh, well, the desk will ask them to come back. I'm not going to do that. We have situations where we have staff members who don't want to seem salesy, and so they don't ask the guest to come back. I had a massage myself last week in a spa that was an excellent massage, and they made absolutely no effort to invite me to come back. So it's everyone's responsibility to do that, because the guest sees all of these different people at all the different points. Now, on the retail front, we have to invite the guest to take home some products that work for them. Home care sales, as I mentioned earlier, are very important to our revenue and to our retention, because the guest is more likely to come back. And even better, if you have your own private label line, and then every time they go in their bathroom or their bedroom and they see that product, they think of you. So those connections are very strong. We also need to train our consumer that the products that we sell through professional venues are more active, they are more targeted, they're going to get much better results than they would get from something that they buy maybe off the shelf at Ulta, or heaven forbid, the drugstore or the supermarket. So training your staff to showcase their knowledge on products is also an important way to get that retail sale. But the sales only occur when we ask the guests. Very few guests come up to the desk and say at the conclusion of their treatment, I'd like to buy everything that I was shown today. They're waiting for us to tell them what to do next. Book your next appointment, bring home some products. And one good way of doing that is to explain what other people usually do. So for instance, a guest who's just seen perhaps a busy therapist comes up, and while you're checking out, you might say, oh, Mary, I saw that you were with Janet. She's really in demand. Most people book their next appointment before leaving because she's hard to get in with. That's an easy way to send that message to the guest of, oh, okay, I better book that now. Now, I know it's a challenge. Everyone says, I don't have my schedule. I don't know what I'm doing. And we've seen very big changes in this in the last few years, and exacerbated by COVID. People are not sure what their schedule will be. But if you can get them to commit to something with the idea that they can always change it, that can be helpful too. It's just getting them to commit to come back. That's what we want. We want that return to come back. What we don't want to say at the checkout are things like this. Do you want to purchase any products? That's an easy no, right? These are not yes, no questions. Do you want to buy anything? Not welcoming, not explaining to me what the benefits would be if I did buy something. Need anything today? All set? So neither of those is going to produce the result you want. And let me give you an example of how not to do it. Let's watch this video.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Checking in?
No, actually, I'm checking out.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You had a facial with Rochelle today?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, great. Let me get you checked out.
Okay.
Okay, and Rochelle left some products over there for you. Would you like to purchase any products today?
No.
Okay.
So I hope you found that humorous. That is an example of the therapist doing their job. They filled out their prescription form. They've lined up all the products very neatly at the desk. But the guest needs more than just, do you want these products, right? They need someone to walk them through the process. This is a clip from a video that Win Business, my company, we made in the 10 or 12 years ago that we will have on our website shortly. But there are a lot of vignettes of how to do it and how not to. And this was obviously the how not to way to sell products. By the way, if you have questions or comments along the line, you want to put them in the chat, that would be fine. We will get to those. Sorry, in the Q&A. So the right way, these are some good examples for you to use of how to ask correctly. Which of these home care formulas would you like to take with you today? Not would you like to buy something, which can easily be answered with no, but which would you like to take? The assumptive close, which I'll refer to again. We're assuming you'll take something, just maybe not everything, but which things would you like to take? Mary made some great recommendations to help you reduce your stress, getting to the point of why the client came to you in the first place. I'll show them to you and you can let me know what you'd like to take with you as we go along. So again, just laying out there that idea that of course you'll take products home with you. What would you like to do to continue your spa experience at home? I think this really is a key because we only have that consumer for an hour, maybe two of the month, maybe in 2 months. How much difference can we make in that 1 hour? If they take some products home with them, they will be able to continue to see the benefits of the treatments that they've just invested in. So I like to position it as almost insurance, right? You've paid money to have this great experience. Now let's ensure that that continues by your home care. Those of you listening all in the business, you know that you have a guest come in who wants some amazing result. And when you ask them what they use at home, it's not at all consistent with the result that they want to get. We don't want to oversell them for sure, but at least send them home with 1 or 2 products that get them, on the right foot to making the changes that they're interested in. Now, the when is woven through the visit, throughout the contact points, as I've already referenced. The service delivery cycle in spas and salons is complex. There are many moving parts. They find our website, they call on the phone or book online, they arrive, there's a greeting at the front desk, there's a greeting with the therapist, there's perhaps a locker room or lounge or transitory experience, the treatment itself, back to the front desk or another treatment. And so all of these points are when we reinforce friendliness, welcoming, wanting the guest to return. But the checkout is when we actually ask for the sale. And that again is the key. It's that key moment of making what we want to have happen. So we have that guest presented in front of us as we did in the picture at the beginning, and we have that happiness check in our brain. How do we know if the guest is happy? Sometimes they're smiling, they say this was amazing, and you can tell, but other times we're not seeing that. Maybe the guest didn't have a great time, or maybe they're just kind of a quiet, solemn person, but whichever it was, you want to find out. Now, what we don't want to have happen, and I reiterated this earlier, is that the guest in some way was dissatisfied and they leave and they didn't enjoy it and maybe they don't come back. And maybe even worse is that they share negative feedback, which we would not want. So this is the time. Ensure that everyone who checks out has a superlative experience. And we ask them questions that show we really want to know, that are specific. Don't say, how was it? I hear this all the time. How was everything? It was great. Okay. I mean, that's positive, but what guest is going to say, it wasn't so great, actually? I think you will learn more when you ask specific questions about the provider or the treatment that they had. How did you enjoy our halo therapy room? How did you enjoy, the new hair color, the new process that we introduced, or our new stylist? Use the names. Ask like you really mean it, and definitely take notes if someone says something that was not, it's wonderful. You want to immediately address that. Don't hide your head in the sand and pretend nothing happened and it's fine, because again, that guest leaves dissatisfied. They don't pre-book their next appointment, and then maybe we have lost a chance to get them to come back. This is another thing that I see happening often, which is that, especially on the therapist side, the therapist will decide, that the client really couldn't afford to come back. And I hear the craziest things like, well, I could just tell they can't afford this. Listen, you're an intuitive person, but you're not a mind reader. And there might have been a time when we could categorize people by the clothes they wore or the job they had or the car they drove, but those days are gone. And everyone who comes into your place is searching for something they believe you can provide. Generally, it's stress relief in the case of a spa. In the case of a salon, it may be that I need my hair or my nails to look good, and that's an immediate effect. Stress reduction, pain management, or just time to yourself are things that everyone needs. And listen, they came the first time. They must know they need it, right? I'm sorry, my hair's going crazy here. So don't assume there's no reason for them to want to come back. Of course they should come back. You have a beautiful facility, you gave a great treatment, and we ask them to return. Do not let your therapist say to you, oh, I could tell, that this person wouldn't come back. You don't know. You must ask everyone every time. There's no shortcut to that. If I don't get the invitation to return, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to. Again, I'm waiting to hear what other people do or what's common. So the job of the staff, both service and front desk, is to work together to create that situation where I say, yes, it was wonderful. I feel relaxed. I can't wait to do that again. And I'd like to rebook it. But how you ask is super important as well. Again, like with the retail, we don't say, would you like to make another appointment at this time? That's the worst thing to say. Why? It's a double yes, no question. Making an appointment and at this time can give two different answers. And it makes it transactional. We don't sell appointments. We sell experiences. We sell treatments. We sell a feeling that when you leave, you are relaxed and refreshed, or your hair looks great. That's not an appointment. An appointment is not compelling. Who wants that? That sounds like a chore. So I think it's how you phrase it that sounds much more inviting. And asking this way reminds them they could always do it later. When you say at this time, that's their excuse to say, no, I'll call you later. So we've kind of let them off the hook. We feel like we asked, but we asked in a way that doesn't deliver the result that we're looking for. And let me give you another example of that.
Really? Well, what movie are we going to see? Okay, let me check it out. Let me see what times are open here. Oh, we could go see that one at 9 o'clock. Oh, shoot, hold on just a minute. Hi, all set?
Yes.
Okay, and your name was?
Melissa?
Melissa. Okay, you had a facial with Rochelle. Mm-hmm. Okay, and we have your gift certificate, so that takes care of your treatment, so we'll see you next time, okay?
Okay.
Okay, hope to see you again.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Sorry, client checking out.
So this front desk person, while nicely dressed and very kind, is very much too busy making his movie appointment to book the next appointment. So the client comes up to the desk and he says, you're good. We have your money. You can go. So that's not helpful. Okay, so the right way would be to ask, when would you like to have your next age management facial with Shayna? It's specific, it's assumptive. When would you like to? Not would you or wouldn't you. When would you like to have your next age management facial, not appointment, with a specific person? So this is more vivid. It will remind them of what we're doing and more personal. Okay. I'm going to stop my share and reshare in case something is not working. Okay. I hope everyone can see that. So in conclusion, at the finish, we connect with the guests. Goodbye. Hope you have a great day. We look forward to your next visit, right? Future casting. Of course, you will come back. When will the next time that you come back be? Just remember to adopt that assumptive position between all of your staff. Please come back is woven through all of the different conversations that you have from the front desk through therapists and through to the close. Okay, so now that we know what to do, are we tracking if we're doing it? You have some good tools in Booker to track results of this. Some of you said that you were looking at these numbers, which is great. This is in the Salon Intelligence Report, and you can see and under customer retention how many people are coming back. This is not the Salon Intelligence Report. I've got the wrong one, but it is a way to look at see by employee or by brand who's bringing people back. Here's a report that was run that shows that 45% of people are brought back by employee. This is customer retention dashboard. Thank you, Matt. And about half are brought back by the location. Let me make a point here that this is a good distinction. The holy grail for our businesses is that the client comes back and they don't care who they have. That is the ideal situation for you. It's not as easy to reach that, and it's harder with salons. Clients tend to be more attached to one provider or another. Understandably, they want the same person to do their hair. But on the spa side, if you could get clients that come and don't mind who they have, they know they'll get a great experience with everyone, that is awesome. But we still want to know what employees are keeping the guest and which are not. So this particular report looks at all employees and this guests, and this was existing guests. So of the existing guests, you're generally going to see a higher number here on the retention. More people will come back because they've already come back, right? So that number needs to continue going up. This is important why to watch. And please don't look at your retention report once a year, right? Because if you have a particular therapist whose retention is dropping, you want to know immediately about that. If someone has been at a steady level and starts to go down, we want to address that before it goes too low and too much time has elapsed. So to me, this is a monthly data point that needs to be looked at. What is the retention of new and existing guests? And do they need any help learning how to do that better? Of course, in your onboarding and training, I'm sure you're discussing the kinds of examples I've given you about how to do it and how to weave it into the conversation. But what we find, especially with spa staff, is that it's not that they don't want to do it, they don't quite know how to introduce the topic of coming back and inviting people back, and it does feel salesy. So we need to give them scripting and training so that they understand how to get into that conversation, and best in the treatment room. When you're in the treatment room with the guest, it's you and the guest, you have their full attention as a professional, you'll be the most effective. Once you leave the treatment room and go back to the front desk, it can be more challenging to get the guest to listen to you. They start to be distracted by the other things going on. However, at the desk is a really good place to close the retail. So you find your sweet spot and you work with your therapist. Spa and salon managers and owners, your job, once you've hired the right people, is to teach them how to keep that customer. And once they do that, we're in great shape. This is from the Salon Intelligence Report, and it looks at the retention as well and productivity. So the number of existing guests retained and the new guests retained. This is a detail, sorry, Matt. It's the customer retention dashboard by staff. So it drills down deeper into those details about who's doing what. You need to know this. And I hope that those of you who said you were tracking this are continuing to do that. So that report is, Matt will follow up with you guys who have questions about where to find this. This is a snippet of a report that's actually much bigger. This is a definition of spa that I wanted to share in closing from iSpa. It used to be back in the day that spas were places that had water involved in their treatments, and it's not so much anymore. Places devoted to enhancing overall well-being through a variety of professional services that encourage the renewal of mind, body, and spirit. That's a nice description, but it's not very specific. Those of you that own salons know that a client walks out and their hair looks great and they have that very specific result. On the spa side, it's harder for the guests. They can't see the result of the massage. They feel good inside, but we have to really work to convince them how often they need to come back and to receive these services. And so why I'm sharing this here is to say, you don't have, as I said at the beginning, an endless number of people coming. So you've got to make the most of the people that you have and get them to return. I told you the story of last week, and I've had this happen many times. I was traveling at the conference. I went to a retreat afterwards. They knew that we didn't live there, but I was there for a few days, and I had a massage that was very good. Why didn't someone say to me, we'd love to see you back tomorrow. We know you're leaving after that, but come on back and try something else. Just no attempt made, to get me to come back. And the number of times that I've had this happen to me in 35 years in the business is stunning. Why? Because this is free. It doesn't take an investment in technology or equipment to ask people to return. It is free and it is easy to train your staff to do it. We just need to do it with a little bit of mindfulness and do it correctly. So thank you for listening. If anybody has any questions or anything they'd like to share in the Q&A, please do so. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I know this recording will be made available if you'd like to hear it again. That would be great. I'm going to go peek at the Q&A and see if there are any questions there.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. I can start reading these off to help.
Okay, great.
Let's see. Tyler was asking, what was the percentage how likely a client is going to return after purchasing a product?
So the number we've been given is, Tyler, is 2 to 3 times more likely just from purchasing a product. And the more products they buy, the more likely they return. Now, this gets tricky when you get into a multiple modality situation. And what I mean by that is if you're just a skincare, a facial studio, and that's all you sell is skincare, you're going to have higher numbers than you would if you're a full service salon. We can't expect guests to buy products in every department. But the more you sell, at the end of the day, the more likely they'll return.
Thank you. And thanks for going over metrics earlier. We will also have Matt jumping on later to help us look at reports for Booker, and then we can go over some Mindbody ones in the follow-up emails. Let's see. Amy is asking, could we get a staff version of this webinar to send to the front desk and for therapists to watch? So Amy, we will have a recording. We won't necessarily have a staff version, but you can definitely share this with your whole team. And of course, Lisa is available for consulting services, which is the best part.
Yeah, and let me add that we definitely have staff versions of this kind of activity. That's a lot of what the training that I do is. They do need to hear it, and they've heard it from you 1,000 times, but sometimes it helps to hear it from somebody else.
Great, thanks. Luz is asking about the staff retention report, excuse me. So Matt will demo those later. Elliot is asking, any tips for a checkout process that does not involve a front desk? We want guests just to float out paying on a tablet or phone and not need to interact with the front desk upon leaving.
Okay, that's an interesting question, Elliot, and rather new, I would say. I mean, used to be that we collected them at the desk and we hit all these points of rebooking and retail and how was everything. And so in this contactless environment, we're less able to do that, right? We're less able to connect with them. Maybe I would program what they see to answer some questions like, can we rebook your next appointment? How would you like to do that? It does make it difficult to sell retail when you're collecting payment remotely, but that is, as I said, best done by the provider, the hair and nail or spa provider. So I would think that I would probably want to script something that walks the guests through the rebooking process and maybe sends them away with something that's a memento. We used to do the prescription sheet that also had advice on it for drinking water and rest. And maybe there's a way to do that digitally, like after they've left to check in. Also incentives, frankly, incentives for rebooking your next appointment, that you get entered into a raffle to win something, or, I'm always looking for ways to incent the behaviors I want. So those are my off the top of my head tips. I put my email up here, and if I think of anything else, reach out to me and I'll answer you that way.
Great. And Elliot, we also have features within Booker and also the Bowtie AI Messenger that allows you to help check out clients without, person-to-person contact. So it makes everyone safer. So we'll send that out in the follow-up. Let's see. We have a question, Lisa. What are your thoughts on memberships for salons and spa?
My thoughts are that it's good to have it. And we've seen the results of that in the last few months. Places that had membership programs had steadier income than those that didn't. It's a double-edged sword. When Massage Envy came and they did membership better than anyone, it seemed difficult to compete with that. But I'm finding these days that almost everyone is offering some form of membership, and we're getting pretty good results with it. So I would encourage you to look at what would work for your property, the kinds of services you do, and the kind of client that you have, and see what you can do. It's a great way to commit the guest to that monthly visit, and then you're not so desperate to make sure they rebook.
That makes sense. Thanks, Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
So we have some questions about Booker software and how to learn it. So we do have a certification training that's available, and that's in the chat, and we will send that in the follow-up emails as well. Amy would love a staff training guide that leaves out business owner need to know information. Do we have some resources about that?
I certainly do, Amy, if you'd like to reach out to me directly.
Yeah, and again, Lisa's information is on the slides right now, and we will send that out in the follow-up so you can get in contact.
And thank you, Michael, for your comment, who just wrote in the chat that he just had his 5 best months ever since reopening, and he has membership.
That's fantastic. That's awesome. We do have other questions and comments in the chat. Sam is asking, with membership, some clients want to tip up front for the whole year at our barbershop. How do you recommend handling that if they jump in between stylists?
That's a tricky one, Sam. That's like an accounting nightmare, right? Putting the money aside, it's not even in your revenue stream, and being able to portion it out for each visit. I'm sure there's a way to do it just in Excel, or perhaps there's a tool within Booker. It's not easy to do, but I agree, it's not ideal. I wouldn't necessarily encourage that.
Hey, Lisa, this is Matt.
Hey, Matt.
The exact best way through this, but we do have a concept of store credit. So you could have the person purchase some store credit and then use that store credit throughout the year to distribute the tips. I don't have the exact workflow down in my head, but there's something there with either store credit or buying gift certificates or something that would facilitate that store credit.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe that's the way. You sell them a bunch of like 12 gift cards each for the amount, and then it gets apportioned out for the tip. I don't know, but good to know. Thanks for jumping in there.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, now that we have you, would you like to jump into showing us some reports?
Sure, yeah, I noticed a question in the chat about how do I get to these reports? So they need to be enabled for you. So if they're not, and you check afterwards, please reach out to us and we'll help with that. But let me go ahead and share Lisa, if you can just stop sharing.
Yes.
Okay. So in the reports tab, when you come to all reports, you can either find them by category or you can just type in the name. So if I type in customer retention dashboard, this report will come up. And as Lisa had showed in her example, it was based on existing only. But what's really neat about this report is you define what it means for you to retain a customer versus some other reports such as the Salon Intelligence. It's a predefined definition that you can find in the help article. So you can say, do I want all new or existing? We'll keep it at all. Do I want to see this for all employees? Or if you happen to use employee groups, you can choose to look at a particular group of employees. And then what month and then who returned how many times they need to come back to be considered retained in your definition, and what is that time period they have to fulfill it. And so when you run it, you'll see the chart at the top that Lisa showed on her slide. It will take a tiny bit. But what it also shows that Lisa's screenshot did not show is it does have some employee details down below. So this is overall for the business. But if we scroll down, you can see each of the individual employees. So these are people who came to hit them, and did that same person come back to them again or not be retained? Or in the case of this person, so she saw 13 people, 10 of which were retained by the business, 5 of which came back directly to her. So you can really see that breakdown. And this is a really useful thing to, if you're doing coaching sessions, like print out their particular information and work with them. Or you can identify people who are really good at this and have them help their colleagues. Like, what is it that they're doing to make sure that the people are coming back that someone else is not doing? And then the other report that was mentioned was the Salon Intelligence Report. This one has a lot more data in it. The other one was really visual, really easy to understand, and laser focused on retention. This one is focused on really what are the top metrics that you would want in a salon, but many of these apply to a spa as well. So we'll just wait for this to come up and we'll look at the current week. So it first looks at the business as a whole and tells you about your sales, comparing this time period to the same time period last year and whether or not you improved. It has important metrics like how productive are you? What's your average product or retail that you're selling per ticket? If you are a salon, it will look at percentage of color transactions using the hair color category to figure that out. Percentage of customers being rebooked, and then existing and new guest retention, as well as your inventory on hand. But you can go down to the staff level, and here's where you get some really great productivity metrics. And I probably should have done last week, so let's just rerun this so we actually have some data to look at.
These are great. These are great detailed numbers, though. I mean, it's so easy to access.
Yes, if we come now here where we have some actual data, you'll be able to see, and it breaks it up by the group if you use groups, all of the employees, and it shows you their productivity, their retention, and some key metrics that are really useful to measure how your staff is doing.
Thank you for sharing that, Matt. I love the productivity number too, and maybe we'll do another webinar about that, because really at the end of the day, filling our books is key. Retention obviously helps us get there, but
the easiest way is to fill your books.
Focusing on selling those time slots is key. There was one more question in the Q&A I just wanted to touch on from Iva about membership at a one therapist business. Iva, that's awesome that you are doing that. It's really difficult to be a one-man show, as you may be finding. You're never allowed to be sick or off, so that creates challenges. I think it's worth trying if you are in high demand. You know, you want to be pre-booked certainly and make sure that your time is maximized, but it also puts you in a difficult position if you're selling memberships and then suddenly you are sick for a week or something, how you're going to provide that service. So I'd have to think creatively about what else you might be able to do, but maybe bringing in at least one other person with a different price structure might be a way to go as well. So thank you for that question. And thank you, Matt, for jumping in. It was great. I like
that. Actually, I want to add one more thing, because there was a lot of talk about memberships for people who are either on V2 of Booker, or you're on our older version of Booker, but you use our new online booking. The ability to sell memberships online is coming soon. In the coming weeks, we'll actually be going into a beta for that. So if you're interested in participating in the beta, please reach out to us and we'll work with you to get you in there and get your feedback, and so that we can make it even better. But in January is when we plan to bring it to everyone.
Thanks.
That sounds great.
We've got one more question for you. Under the retention section in the Salon Intelligence Report, how does it count new guests retained?
That's a Matt question.
I don't remember off the top of my head. The help article, though, that I shared earlier, and we'll send it out in the follow-up, has exact definitions of what it means by retained, what it means by pre-booked. And so if anyone is experiencing anything where that is not happening the way they expect, please reach out to us and we will get to the bottom of it with you. And if there are any discrepancies, we will get them fixed.
Great. Thanks. I think we've covered all the questions. If you have any more questions for us, please reach out to Lisa. She's left her email address. And again, we will be sending follow-up resources. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for sharing all of your insights about retention best practices. I know I learned a ton about our retention metrics, our reports, and that assumptive positioning that Lisa talked about with rebooking, selling retail, and just overall improving the client experience in the salon or spa business. Thanks for all of your questions today and your participation in our polls. Keep an eye out for that follow-up email with all of our resources, and we hope to see you next time.
Thank you, everyone, for your participation and for your great suggestions for future webinars. Thank you for that. And thank you, Matt, for jumping in.
It was fun doing it with you, Lisa.
Yeah, let's do it again. Have a great day, everybody.